What will the next parabolic all-time high look like for Bitcoin? $100,000, $200,000, $400,000? In this video, I'm going to discuss my thoughts, my prediction on Bitcoin's next all-time high going into 2021. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Crypto Capital Venture. Be sure to hit that subscribe and like on the way in. It really means a lot to me. Let's jump into this. This is an exciting video. Today's December 18th, 2020. Now, I did something on December 18th, 2018, right on this chart. What I did was I charted the chart that you see on the screen, and I want to show you just a really quick clip from that day. If this cycle continues, right, the cycle of Bitcoin, we have this 2020 halving, right? So depending on where Bitcoin finds its bottom here, we can say somewhere in the range where we are right now, right? Maybe even a little lower. But Bitcoin leading into the 2020 halving, a year after that, if Bitcoin continues this trend that it's in, Bitcoin could potentially see a $90,000 Bitcoin. So $90,000 Bitcoin, 2021. Now I want to say something. Generally speaking, I think $100,000 has been just that number that I talk about in this next cycle. I said $90,000 in that video. This chart sits at $90,000. We can zoom in here on this chart and you can just see Bitcoin, took a little bit longer than this line that I had planted there. Now, if you remember COVID hit, that might have something to play into that. But either way, Bitcoin is on trajectory. And some things have transpired, though, even very recently, that really play into the scenario where Bitcoin actually kind of flies through that area. And I want to talk about that in this video. One thing is cool. In April, I tweeted this: out of nowhere, Bitcoin flies through 20,000, continues pump to 26,500. Twitter's going crazy. Bitcoin then retraces to 18,000. Bears call for 3,000, and the tweet goes on. Now, when I tweeted that, Bitcoin was around $7,500, and now Bitcoin is sitting at right around $23,000. This has been such a convincing period of time, really, for everybody that has kind of sat on the sidelines and watched Bitcoin. As all of us really tweeted things like this. Even this video talking about a $90,000 Bitcoin, Bitcoin's at $3,500. People probably really laughing at us as we're doing these things. But the synergy and harmony on the Bitcoin charts and the cycles of Bitcoin, which is what this is charted on, this wasn't just like a fly-by-night prediction. This was based on charts, based on true technical analysis. Even the bottom of the bear market range that we were talking about, there was a reason for that. And so a $90,000 Bitcoin, just so conservatively in play. Now, beyond that, I do want to talk about some things because there's some crazy things happening right now in regards to Bitcoin. Number one, PayPal's stock soars to all-time high as demand for Bitcoin on the platform now more than supply of new coins. So this was 3 days ago. So PayPal's going crazy basically because the demand for Bitcoin, everyone, on PayPal is more than the supply of new coins. We've talked about the supply shock in terms of Bitcoin, especially with this recent 2020 halving, the supply shock that is going to occur in terms of Bitcoin. And this is just a really simple illustration for anybody to understand, anybody to realize, because Bitcoin supply is being bought up like no other time before, and it's happening when Bitcoin is trading right around $23,000. So that's number one. Besides that, you have Bitcoin predictions going crazy. Leaked Citibank report, you might have seen this was like a month ago, reveals Bitcoin could rocket to $300,000 price by end of 2021. You have this one, Guggenheim Scott Minerd says Bitcoin should be worth $400,000. I mean, it used to be $100,000 prediction was pretty crazy prediction. Now we have 400,000, 300,000. There's people that easily would say $1 million. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, right? When you have these things, sentiment analysis, and then you have the true supply demand factor that is actually happening before our eyes, I think this $90,000 target becomes pretty conservative. And maybe Bitcoin does hit $90,000 and top out there. Maybe the charts just play out so perfectly. But there's a strong case that Bitcoin cruises through and we're in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. My prediction really is, would if I had to give you an exact range, I would say $100,000 to $150,000. I think Bitcoin can certainly overshoot this area. When you get into 200,000, 300, 400,000, I'm just not there yet in such a short term. Now, there is a huge shift to the digital, right? Across all industries, across the world. And the biggest shift in terms of Bitcoin as it pertains to this global digital shift is gold, right? There's a shift from traditional store of value to digital store of value. And what is that digital store of value right now? What is it? It's Bitcoin. So when you have Bitcoin currently sitting at not even $500 billion, not even $500 billion, gold is over 8 trillion, right? What do you think is going to happen in that massive shift into Bitcoin? It's very simple. The price is going to increase. When you have just the supply factor of Bitcoin, the price is going to massively increase. If you have Bitcoin, which would be still under half the market cap of gold, Bitcoin would be sitting at $250,000. These predictions that people are throwing out are probably heavily based on just that simple data alone. And it's very realistic. It makes a ton of sense because that's kind of the world we're living in, this digital world. And so we're going to have a lot of transfer of wealth into Bitcoin. And you can see it happening right now. We are currently in a world, I'm doing videos where Bitcoin trading at $23,000 doesn't sound crazy at all. It still sounds undervalued as I do this video. And zooming out on this chart, this is going all the way back to 2011 here on the chart. You can see it. Not only does it sound undervalued, it still looks kind of undervalued on these charts. And that is because the demand factor for this shortage of Bitcoin is playing into this. So going back to this chart now, there's so many things that could play out in terms of what you see here. And even when we start, getting up into this area, we'd have to really start exploring what a retracement would look like. And this is something I really wanted to talk about in this video, going to a weekly chart. And actually, I'm sorry, this is a monthly chart, by the way. This is a monthly chart that I want to show you this first before we go to the weekly. Bitcoin has so much room on the macro side of things for upside. Bitcoin can truly just continue taking off, right? So just the all-time highs historically, all the way up here, like that 97 range for Bitcoin. Bitcoin's currently all the way down here, 77. And this is the monthly chart. So just remember that. Ton of room for upside. And the reason why, even on the midterm, that this could happen quickly, if you go to the weekly, this is just something that I have been, I don't want to say proven wrong, but the data has truly told us a new story in terms of Bitcoin. And this is what we were watching this area for Bitcoin mainly to see what happens here. And it's really right there at the 83 line on the RSI, this weekly RSI. Historically, we've just said over and over on this channel, it's been such a reliable area for Bitcoin over and over again. Multiple times when Bitcoin gets to this area, it tends to top off right at that area or above it, but it tops out, right, and comes back down. What is so interesting about this RSI right now, and I want to expand this just to show you, is this is, out of every picture on a Bitcoin chart, this could be truly the best illustration, and it's just such a small little picture too. But what is occurring here on this RSI on the weekly, down, up, is truly just such a good representation of the supply shock factor, because we have Bitcoin now in an environment which is overbought, and Bitcoin is just not dipping. It just hasn't been dipping. And I'll be the first to admit on my videos in the last couple weeks, we've really talked about it, right? As Bitcoin was approaching, after breaking the bull market doors, as Bitcoin was approaching just this area, really down here, this entire area, very synergistic with what Bitcoin did back in January 2017. And we got a big dip then. It didn't happen this time around. And so when you look at this RSI and it's just continuing up right now on the weekly chart, and then you pair it up with the monthly charts, and there is just so much room for upside for Bitcoin. You know, there's always things that we can do from a technical analysis perspective. The biggest thing for me, if there is room for upside, I talked about a $30,000 next move for Bitcoin, definitely in play. A technical there would be the bull market high to the bear market low. Obviously, you see our bull market doors, which I've just talked about so often on this channel. Bitcoin blew through those doors, but an area that we'd really keep an eye on is the 1618, right around $30,000 for Bitcoin. That's an area we would just, if Bitcoin can manage to get up there in the next couple of weeks or so, if this run keeps going, then we're going to see how Bitcoin interacts with that area. But at the end of the day, the weekly chart, the RSI is so telling in terms of, wow, Bitcoin is being bought up like crazy right now, and we're just sitting at $23,000. So these prices, $300,000, $400,000, they sound extreme, but they're really not. And then when we visit the zoomed out macro chart that I charted a couple of years ago to the day, this now looks pretty conservative. And so, how will this play out in the next year? What's exciting about it is nobody knows. I will just throw out my speculative prediction, my opinion on Bitcoin, and I'm going to throw out that $100,000 to $150,000 range for Bitcoin. And then, we have years ahead of us, right? There's so much upside for Bitcoin. And so time will tell. Keep in mind, a $50,000 Bitcoin, not even $1 trillion Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin, even at $50,000 compared to gold, probably still very undervalued. And so we are sitting at $23,000 just about right now. And we will see how 2021 pans out for Bitcoin. Wanted to throw my thoughts out there. Let me know your thoughts of the all-time high for Bitcoin in 2021 and what you think will happen. I appreciate you cruising by. Hit that subscribe, hit that like. Have an awesome day, and God bless.